Norma Samuel with the University of Florida's Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, UF-IFAS Extension, Sumter County. Welcome to Let's Talk Gardening. Today we're going to be talking about the plant propagation technique of division, and I'm going to show you how to go about dividing a plant to make new plants. And then I'll show you a few plants in my garden that I usually divide to make new plants. This is Tates Aster, a native to Florida, and it's a border plant in my front yard, and I absolutely love this plant because it's drought tolerant. It remains green all year long, and I've had this probably around 10 years now. I bought it as a single plant at one of the Master Gardener plant sales in Marion County, and I am absolutely in love with it. So it has these beautiful light lavender or purple flowers, and these have been blooming since around early March. So they've been flowering for quite a long time. I started out with one plant, as I said before, and you can see I have an entire border from it. And I'm one of those gardeners that if I see something that I like, I buy one, and then, I keep propagating it for myself. Now is not the time to divide these plants because they're flowering. And so the energy is going to be going towards flower production. So I usually divide these in the fall or in February or even late January, before they start to bloom. So here you can see, pollinators being attracted to the flowers. So here I can show you how it's growing, and you can see, all these little plants that are coming up in here. Sometimes I dig the entire plant up and divide it into sections and then pot them out if I'm gonna give them as gifts. Let them stay a few weeks for the roots to establish and then give them to people. Or the other thing I do is if I have an area in my garden where I want to put some more, then I would just go ahead and dig some holes and put them in and let them get established. These plants are very drought tolerant. I usually water them, let's say around once a week or once every 2 weeks, and you can't go wrong with the Tates Aster if you're looking for a drought tolerant plant to add to your garden that's going to attract pollinators. This is Coreopsis. It's another plant I have in my garden that I usually make new plants by division, and it is drought tolerant. It's a native and it attracts pollinators. This particular one is sunup. There's lots of different color Coreopsis out there, so certainly explore adding new colors to your garden. I highly recommend it. I spend quite a bit of time on the weekends, once the blooms are spent, removing the spent blooms, but it is absolutely stunning to have these in the garden, blooming, all spring and into the summer. So I do recommend that you add Coreopsis to your garden. I'm a lazy gardener, so anything that I put in my garden, it has to be able to survive on its own with little care. This does look a bit, tired in the winter. It remains green, but it doesn't look as, perked up, if you want to say that, as it does now. But I do recommend it as a drought tolerant plant that will thrive well in your garden. This is Purple Queen, or some people refer to it as Purple Heart, and it's another plant that you can produce new plants by division Originally, I started out with this plant in a container, and it has these, huge tubers underneath. So this again is a very drought tolerant plant that you can add to your garden. However, put it in an area where you're okay with it spreading. And this is just accidental that I have this here, because I had redone the container and dumped the soil in this area of my garden, and the roots actually came up, produced new plants, and so I have it coming up under my Tacoma stands as an kind of like an understory, and it's a very dense border that I have here with this purple queen. It is drought tolerant, and it's in a protected area, so it doesn't die back. But if you are in Central Florida, if we have a severe freeze and it's not in a protected area, it can die back, but it will come back again. So this is a great beauty that you can add to your landscape and make more plants by division. This is spider plant, and you've probably seen this growing in containers on hanging baskets. It's a very popular house plant and very easy to grow. So if you don't consider yourself to be a green thumb and you want a plant that is very easy, this would be one that I would highly recommend. You can propagate it by these little spider offshoots here, and Lisa in the last episode spoke to you about propagation by cuttings, so I'm not going to go into that in this episode. So you can always go back and watch Lisa's episode on cuttings. So what we're going to do today is just simply divide this plant into multiple pieces to make new plants. So what do you need? So of course you need the plant, and you need a sharp knife so you can cut the plant into pieces. And here in this container, I'm reusing this container, so it's been sanitized with a 10% bleach solution, so that's 9 parts water, 1 part bleach, and I've wet the potting mix so that it's moist. Whenever you're transplanting, you always want to make sure that you're transplanting into a mix that has been moist. You don't want it too wet. So you can see here it's moist but not soaking wet. If you try and plant in a mix that's dry, it's gonna be hard for you to get this to wet once you're planted in there. So wet the potting mix and make sure you thoroughly incorporate it so that the moisture is even throughout. So what I'm doing here now is that I'm making a big hole in the center, and that's where I'm going to place the new plant after it has been divided. Now I'm going to take this out of the pot. So I'm going to put my hand underneath and flip that over, and then take the pot off. Now you see what we have here? All these roots are growing around in circles. So this is what we call a plant that's root bound. Even though this is root bound, the roots are nice and clear, so you can tell that it's healthy. So that's a good thing. Now what do I need to do with this? The first thing I'm gonna do is to shave these roots, because I don't want them to continue growing in circles when I make the transplant. So I'm going to shave these roots off. Now what you can do from time to time, is up the pot size to prevent your plants from, the roots from growing around in circle. But even when you up the pot size, you still want to shave the roots, because if you up the pot size without shaving the roots, they're still gonna continue wrap around in circles. So here you can see there's one plant here, one there, and there's a whole bunch of them together here. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna divide this just simply into two. So I'm gonna cut it all the way down the middle, and voila, you have two plants. If you wanted to do another cut, you can cut it down the middle here and get another plant. So I already have my hole in the middle, and I'm just simply gonna put this down in the pot, and you want to put it at the same level that it was in the original pot. So you don't want to plant it too deep. So it's in here, and there you go, you have a new plant. And so just like that, there's one plant, and I'll just have to put this in another container, so that's two plants. What I usually do with these is I put them in a shaded area, and I keep the soil moist, and it takes a few weeks to get the roots established. But there you go, it's as easy as that to make new plants. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Let's Talk Gardening. I'm Norma Samuel with the University of Florida's Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, UF-IFAS Extension, Sumter County. See you next time.